So this is eKalimba looper. I'll show off the looper aspect in just a second. The kalimba stuff is pretty quick to go through. It is an attempt to solve a problem that doesn't make sense solving, which is that the grid layout of the ZOIA doesn't respond to velocity or aftertouch or anything like that. So I wanted to create something that was dynamic from a non-dynamic source. So what this is each of these rows or each of these columns represents a different note, and you can tune those columns on this second page. By default, it's set to an A major scale. But then going down the columns, you have something that approximates velocity. The synthesis is a modal synthesis using pinged filters, and what happens is as you go up and down the row, the column, up and down the column, you get different resonances for those pinged filters from less. This used to be called least, but I changed some things around and didn't feel like renaming everything. There were 5 originally, but I thought 4 with some controls for the looper on the front page made more sense. Some, more, most. And you'll hear a change both in timbre and decay and volume as you go up and down that column. So you can get some different results for the voices. It has 4-note polyphony, I should say. You can play 4 notes at a time, but not 5, which works fine if your hands are anything like mine. Playing more than 5 notes or 4 notes is a little tricky on the ZOIA grid for me, and 4 is a good number. So let's go through some of the other controls. Just real quickly, because this relates to the keyboard thing I was talking about, you have a range that you can set for that scaling. So there's a high resonance, which will determine the most position, and a low resonance, which will determine the less position. And you can change those around. You know, maybe you don't want it to get quite so ringy at the highest. Or maybe you want it to be ringier at the lowest. So you can control that using these controls. It's subtle. I didn't go to super extremes, but it gives you some control over this response across the columns. You can control, it's made up of 2 pinged filters, so they're offset from one another, and you can control the amount of offset. So if I change this around, I can get much more atonal sort of things. The pitch will be, determined by both of those things. So is this still tuned to an A major scale? I don't know. Some of it is. One of the resonators is, but the other one isn't. You can get some really neat tones if you get it just on the edge of having the same frequency. Nice little weird modulated thing. I'm going to turn that back to this, which is about 2 octaves above. And you can control the offset resonance. So this is sort of in relation to the bass line. If you want that higher pitch to be sort of less emphatic, you can make it less resonant than the other resonator, the one that tracks the keyboard or the tines. We have a high pass filter, just to get rid of. Let me switch to. It can get a little thick in the low end without a high pass filter. So you can adjust that and sort of change the response, particularly of lower notes. And then the rest of these controls have to do with the looper. So let's get into that. The looper is one that begins recording once something is played on the keyboard or the tines, and you can arm it either by pressing this button here or by pressing the left stomp switch, and this will light up. Once I start playing, this pixel next to it will also light up to show that it's recording. So I'm just going to record something. And if I don't like that, I can clear it with this middle stomp switch or this button on the front page. So if you wanted to load this into a ZBoo, it would do so pretty seamlessly because you can control it either with the stomp switches or with the front page buttons. So you might have noticed that there was some pitch effects. So there's a tape age control here on the second page and a warble. I'll mess around with those. Let me record something again. Warble gets kind of funhouse mirrors. Warble gets kind of funhouse mirrors at the end. There's a level control for the looper and for the kalimba. The kalimba level will determine the level that goes into the looper, which is good and bad. It means that you can record things at different volumes if you wanted to, but it may be hard to determine what the overall volume will be if you start messing around with the kalimba level. But you can also turn the kalimba down in contrast to the looper then. So it was more effective for mixing, even though it's not ideal. I don't think there is really an ideal way to do that. Some other controls we have on the front page, we have speed, pitch, reverse. This button will transpose up or down an octave. Pink is up an octave. Purple is no change in pitch, and blue or sky is down an octave. So you can move between octaves on the keyboard. You get a 3-octave range or more than that if you want to tune these to something other than just an octave. I've tuned them to octaves and fifths before, which is a fun thing to play around with, or octaves and fourths and fifths. You get some really neat stuff because you can move through more pitches. So that's that. Then there is a rewind control and a tape stop control. The rewind control is momentary, and the tape stop control is latching. And I'll record something again and show these off. But it's also an overdubbing looper. So I want to show off that I can record something, then reverse it, and then record something over it, and reverse that, and the original thing will play back as it was recorded, and the new thing that I overdubbed will be reversed now. So again, just something simple. This won't start recording until I play again, so just keep that in mind. So right now that's playing forward. And the same works for the speed pitch. Um, so, with overdubbing in the Zoya looper, you can do some interesting things with layering things up and having some layers reversed and other layers not. So just keep that in mind. Um, Everything will be recorded at the direction and pitch and speed that it comes in at, but then if you change that subsequently, you can do interesting stuff with layering things. So finally, these two sort of momentary or button effects. Again, I'll just record something pretty simple. And I can reverse or rewind, which just pitches the looper up a few octaves and puts it in reverse with a slight slew. The slew limiter used for that is on this page if you want to change the amount that it pitches up or how quickly it changes speed. The same for the tape stop, which uses this slew limiter down here. So if you want to change that and the tape stop, what it does is it sends the looper into the lowest speed, so it effectively stops it. There's a high pass filter filtering out the very lowest frequencies because it's actually rumbling along at a very low volume that you and I can't hear. But I just wanted to filter out that noise in case you had like a really powerful subwoofer or something like that. But otherwise, you wouldn't hear that. And then we can So, like I said, if you want to change the speed that it rises and falls, the slew limiter here controls that. And that's eKalimba Looper. It's, like a fun little patch, I hope. Um, Something to mess around with. If you throw it through a bunch of effects, I'm gesturing to some effects I have that are out of the screen. Good camera work. It's sort of like a nice, pretty, like tonal foundation to like do weird stuff too. So, particularly if you're just messing around with your pedal board or your rack or something like that, and you want something that is a little simpler, or, whatever to mess around with, this is, I think, like a good candidate for something to play around with if you're just sitting on your couch and want to play a little melody, or if you want a foundation to sort of do some noisy, glitchy thing with. I think it also works pretty well for that. So that is eKalimba Looper. If you download the patch and enjoy it, please consider liking it on Patch Storage. And that's all I've got today. So that is that. Take care. Have a good day.